life's a roller coaster. We know that for the last couple of years. We know things go wrong, boilers break, we reverse into something with the car, pandemics happen. So we need to make sure that our household can survive for 6 months if something happens, something goes wrong. Later. So here is our agenda. So first I will start with some key facts and figures as to why addressing financial wellbeing is so important for everyone, so individually and employees. I will touch on the eye-watering levels of inflation and increased living costs and the impact this is having on our hard-earned income and savings. And then financial wellbeing really starts with assessing how financially secure you are and having some honest conversations with yourself before building out.
Has anyone else lost sound there?
Yeah, Kirsty,
financial wellbeing plans relevant
yes,
to Brewin Dolphin, help you, your family. So firstly, why is financial wellbeing? I can hear you. You can. Oh no, my internet connection's not good.
Carry on, Kirsty. You there? You're back,
can you
back
just
on.
Can you stop me, Paul?
Yeah, you're back on.
Quiet?
You're back on.
Okay, right.
Just keep your eye on me. I'll wave.
Oh, but I have. Just let me just put you on. Right. Okay, I've got you full. Right. So, why is financial wellbeing so important? Well, there's 3 bits of research I'm going to comment on. So back in 2017, Martin Lewis, who is a great source of information on his money savings expert website, he's also got an institute called the Money and Mental Health Policy Institute. And back in 2007, he surveyed a number of employees and found that 1 in 5 employees report that they're just about managing financially. Then we did some work with the Lawyer magazine and found that 94% of that population surveyed, so they were all legal professionals, found that their finances caused them some degree of stress. And 65% of the same group believe they're not saving enough for long-term plans, so they're reacting to immediate things like saving for a deposit or a wedding or starting a family and not paying attention to how they might manage in their retirement. And that was research from 2020. Then in 2018, Centre for Economics and Business Research found that 41% of their group are concerned that the money that they will have or will save will not last their lifetime. And the same group, 31%, felt that finances control their life. So the purpose of our sessions are to help you take charge of your finances so that they do not control your life and you've got time to enjoy the other things that you like doing. So in case you didn't know, Brewin Dolphin has nothing to do with bathrooms or dolphins. We manage the investments of clients throughout the country, and Birmingham is one of our largest offices. On the right-hand side is the financial wellbeing team that are based in Birmingham. Okay, so moving on to inflation now. What is it? Well, very simply, it's the increase in costs of goods and services that we buy from day to day. It means our money lasts less than it did previously. I like this slide because it puts it very simply. It shows that back in 30 years ago, in 92, £20 at the supermarket would provide you with a fully stocked shopping trolley. Then 15 years ago, in 2007, you'd have half a trolley of your favourite things. And this year, now you'd only have an own labelled dishwashing liquid, a couple of bananas, an apple, some bread, and something I don't recognise. So we all have learned very recently how much of our food comes from Ukraine and Russia, and understand how that increases our shopping bills. But there were other things at play before Russia invaded Ukraine in February, and that was Brexit, of course, COVID, and there's national insurance changes too. So what does that mean? Well, as well as our income being eroded from inflation, so too are our hard-earned savings. So we can see in this chart that if we put £100 into a cash account, either straightforward savings account or ISA, back in January 2012, at the start of this year, that would be worth £86 or 78 due to inflation. If you put that £100 into the FTSE All-Share, Total Return Index, FTSE All-Share is all of the UK companies, big, small, and ugly. Total return is reinvesting your dividends. So we can see that the FTSE All-Share option would have been a more bumpy ride, but it's very clearly an upward trajectory, whereas cash is a much smoother, more gradual decline. Of course, I must point out that past performance is not a guide to future performance, but it's information that we have. So now we're going to look at what is important in considering in our financial security. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a US agency, and it defines financial well-being as having 4 key elements. So firstly, control over your day-to-day spending. So do you know how much you spend from month to month and where you might be able to cut back, perhaps takeaways? And number 2, your capacity to absorb financial shock. How would you manage if your salary wasn't there or someone in your household was not providing an income? Some of us may have had experience of this during the pandemic. Number 3, are you on track to meet your financial goals? I mean, firstly, do you have financial goals? Do you know what these are? Do you know how well you are, how close you are to getting there? And fourthly, the freedom to make choices that you would like to enjoy your life. So now and in retirement. So we spend a long time working and want to be able to enjoy our retirement too. Now we're going on to look at how we would build a financial wellbeing plan. So there are 8 key steps here. So firstly, build a timeline, and remember that certain parts of our life have different focuses. So certainly I remember when I first started working, I was simply trying to pay my bills, and I used a lot of credit cards and maneuvering to do so. And then we move into accumulating and building up our assets so that the final stages are that we can use those assets to provide the lifestyle that we would like in retirement. Number 2 is know your numbers. So how much do you spend each month, and how much do you take in each month? And what is your credit score? There's an app called Clear Score that alerts you perhaps when you have put a lot on your credit cards to pay for a holiday, for example, like I have done recently. Do you know how much debt you have? Do you know what your net worth is? Thirdly, make the plan. So there's lots of tools that you can use, and we have the perfect one that I will talk about in a minute to help you better understand your goals and how to get there. And fourthly, pay down expensive debts. The worst offenders of these are store cards and credit cards. They have very high interest rates, so please look at those first. And then fifthly, measure and track your spending. So you can use various tools that Martin Lewis's website might have. Even lots of our bank accounts have various tools that we can use, or you can use my favorite, old-fashioned Excel. And setting a budget, make sure that you don't make it too demanding, that you get to enjoy life and your hard-earned income. Number 7 is my favorite, really. So create a savings habit and set up direct debits to go into savings account straight after payday, and start small if you need to. And think about maybe adding more into your pension. It's a very tax-effective way of saving, but it's a long-term way of saving. And number 8, create a 6-month emergency reserve. So an amount equivalent to 6 months of outgoings for you and your household. So life's a roller coaster. We know that for the last couple of years. We know things go wrong, boilers break, we reverse into something with the car, pandemics happen. So we need to make sure that our household can survive for 6 months if something happens, something goes wrong. So once you have that 6 months reserve, you have to be prepared to accept inflation on that. But anything over and above that, you should give thought to investing that so that you can help fight off inflation to a certain degree. So you must remember that if you are going to invest, that you really want to have these funds invested for 5 or more years. You must be prepared for stock market volatility. This is a chart that I used before. So you can very clearly see the pros and cons of investing, but we believe that provided you have good cash reserves for the emergencies, that most people can afford to take on some risk with any excess funds. Another question that I and my colleagues in the polls will get to is, when is the best time to invest? Well, there's a saying that we use a lot, which is time in the market, not timing the market. It's very, very hard to come out at the top and go in at the bottom. There's various bits of research that will show you that missing the best 30 days can be very costly for you. So if you look at this chart, we can see back in February and March 2020, we had a very, very steep fall, but also a pretty quick and steep recovery. And myself and the polls don't get an announcement where the markets are going to recover. So if you, if you hadn't got back in time, you really damage your potential return. So bear that in mind. And the two main messages here. Firstly, the top left-hand chart, which is quite small. The point there is the importance of starting early and in context to how long you're going to be retired for against how long you can save into your pension pots. And of course, the sooner you start, you can make smaller contributions, whereas if you leave it to the last few years, then you really have to put more into your pension that might be comfortable. Also, if you're building up a cash reserve, an ISA, a cash ISA, might be a good place to have it, but thereafter you'll get most use out of the ISA wrapper features by using a stocks and shares ISA. If you have income tax allowance, you'll be using the income tax and the capital gains tax benefits. And so maybe you can put more into your pension. Again, talk about this quite a lot. It's a really tax effective way of saving. And then on the right hand side, this is very important. It's the importance of reinvesting your dividends if you can afford to do so. So if we had put £1,000 in January 92, again to the FTSE All Share index, if we had taken the income out, we can see that that £1,000 would be worth at the beginning of this year 3,516. But if we had left the dividends to be reinvested, then we look at the light blue line, and that £1,000 will be nearer £10,000 at the beginning of this year. So if you don't need the income from your investments, it makes very good sense to keep these reinvested, particularly if that's in a tax wrapper and an ISA, so you can grow your pot to the point that you may need to use it, in which case you have a bigger pot to draw income from. So there are lots of ways that we at Brewin Dolphin can help you, your friends, family, contacts, and employees control their finances and financial well-being. So usually in this session, one of my colleagues really demonstrates this tool, the financial well-being tool, and this is available to you to have a look at. And I highly recommend having a look at it. And I looked at it for my own pensions, and it certainly focused my mind and made me put more into it. So if you have a look at this tool and decide that you're doing a perfect job, and that's still time well spent. But if you decide that you can maybe do with some help, it's an option to click with someone to contact you. But please be aware that if you put information into this site, we won't contact you unless you ask us to do so. So you can put it in, update it next week, and it's very useful. Otherwise, we have three main services. So Brewin Portfolio Service, that starts from £500. It's a perfect way to start savings, start a savings habit. You can pay into their monthly as well. I use this for my son's junior ISA, pay in monthly too. It's quick and simple to set up and to follow. Secondly is Wealth Pilot, which is partly based on the tool that I showed you. You can have access again to a ready-made investment solution, and my colleagues in the Wealth Pilot team are there to answer straightforward financial planning questions. Often we get asked about whether we should be consolidating pensions. And on the far right-hand side is where you'll find myself and the two Pauls, and we work alongside financial planners, in many cases looking at clients with more complex needs. You might be looking at inheritance tax. In this case, all the portfolios are bespoke. So I'm going to skip now. This is to the two QR codes, and if you could scan the first QR code, give some feedback, that'd be brilliant. On the right-hand side, you can scan that QR code if you'd like to arrange a personal appointment. There's no charge for these, and we can have a look at where you're at and where you'd like to get to, and how we can help you. And finally, this disclaimer page, which we have to show. And I'll just rest here now.